Travis H. I have a strange question that popped into my head. Does Sonic really pay taxes on anything?
No, because apparently there's no such thing as money on Sonic's world.
There isn't?
No.
Okay, sure. That makes sense. What is the use / purpose of rings in canon? I know in the games they can act as a one more hit buffer, but I've always been unclear on if that's a literal property that carries over to the world of Sonic outside of gameplay.
Presently, it has no canon usage. It is just a gameplay element.
Things about you and require your detective services. And I can pay handsomely. I have to start practicing harder than ever now.
Dang it! My reward money!
Just be careful, or I might decide to run off with a cash prize.
Shadow, it's me again. Sorry about last time. I've been busy planning the reconstruction.
Mr. President, it's time for your karaoke party with the Minister of Finance.
Have value.
Are you saying there's profit in this?
Think about it. It may be more valuable than finding silver or gold.
Ah. Sunday, supreme.
You said it. Enjoy it, kiddo. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you don't love it, you get your money back.
Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Oh, boy.
Shit.
Here we go again. Rings. They've been around in the Sonic series for as long as the Blue Blur himself. Over the years, they've served as your health, currency, and even get used for more than that, like teleportation in some canons. Or maybe they're at the heart of a game's plot. Naturally, I've always been curious about what they actually are. Growing up, I had my theories, but none were detailed or coherent enough to make much sense. Still, I always hoped Sega would provide some sort of explanation someday. When I heard that Sonic Boom might touch on the backstory and history of the rings, I was excited. But we all know how Boom turned out. Not that it's canon anyway. After that, hearing straight from the horse's mouth that rings aren't canon at all, just a game mechanic, it felt like a letdown. And once again, I was left disappointed. How could that be true? Rings are referenced by characters in the games. They're used as plot points, and appear everywhere in Sonic's world. And what about secret rings, or zero gravity? The stones in that game are literally shaped like rings, clearly a reference to them. Then there's the characters themselves. Some are thieves, while others are vendors. What's the point of stealing or running a shop if nothing has monetary value? Sure, there could be other motivations, but currency is a primary one. I always leaned on the Sonic X explanation that rings are a source of power, but that still doesn't explain their origins or why the hell they're plastered everywhere. They even enable characters to transform into their super forms and sustain them. This has been the case from Sonic 2 to the present day. One might argue that rings are just a gameplay mechanic representing stamina, but that explanation becomes muddled when you consider dialogue like Shadow's line during the Biolizard fight. He explicitly says he's going to collect rings.
I'll collect the rings. Now it's up to you, Sonic.
This complicates things further. If we dismiss this line as non-canon, do we also dismiss every other piece of dialogue from that fight? It's inconsistent to cherry pick. And yet, I still struggle to explain exactly what they could be. Why are they scattered everywhere? It's really random. I understand why Sega would try to brush them off as a game mechanic. I also get why they say there's no money. After all, if money were acknowledged as canon, Sega would have to explain the rings. And if you're forced to explain the rings, well, how do you explain this? Or this? This leads to a butterfly effect, however. If rings aren't canon, how much of what they correlate with is also non-canon? For instance, if rings don't exist and money isn't real, then the shop in Soliana wouldn't exist either. Removing the shop changes the layout of the town, doesn't it? Maybe it's a stretch, but maybe not. If we follow this logic, does the entire casino in Station Square disappear? How do you even come up with the concept of gambling without the concept of money? What's the point of gambling without cash? The world rings and the stones from Zero Gravity aren't the only notable rings either. There are the Chaos rings from Chaotix, Shadow's inhibitor rings, and even the rings Amy wears as accessories. Are we really supposed to believe all these designs just so happen to resemble this specific design of rings by coincidence? If they don't exist, how can something so iconic and omnipresent across a series be written off as purely aesthetic? If they're just gameplay mechanics, why do they influence so much of the plot and world building? It doesn't add up. Some other series tied their game mechanics to the lore, so it isn't impossible. Let me give you some examples. Initially just checkpoints and save spots, bonfires from the Soul series became a key element of the lore. They were fueled by fragments of the First Flame, tying directly into the cyclical nature of the world and the struggle to link or extinguish to the First Flame. In Zelda, the Triforce was just a means to an end, as something to collect at the end of every dungeon. Eventually, however, it evolved into a central piece of the series' mythology. It represents the virtues of power, wisdom, and courage, tied to the goddesses who created Hyrule and the eternal struggle between Link, Zelda, and Ganon. Pokeballs were just tools to catch and store Pokemon. Over time, the games explored their origin and variations, like the more primitive balls of Legends Arceus or the ancient Apricorn-based Pokeballs, making them an iconic part of the lore. I mean, it's really strange, isn't it? After all these years, we still have no real answer for what these things are. Always there, always important, yet still so mysterious. With Ian and the lore team now steering the ship on the game's stories, you'd think they'd want to finally clear this up, but nope, they're sticking to their guns, leaving us with more questions than answers. So, I guess it's up to me to figure this out. But how do you explain something that's so omnipresent, so iconic, yet unexplainable? Come on, man, think. Think!
Right. What the f is a Sonic? We all know that life is harder. It's getting harder day by day. We can show that we are trying. We're making sure that everyone can stay. You're the one I can depend on. No one else will put it right. I'm someone you can rely on. 'Cause we're not giving up.
Okay, I think I've got it. Hear me out. Tails was able to replicate the Chaos Emeralds to the extent that he made a fake emerald that could be used for chaos control by someone as inexperienced with the technique as Sonic. Gerald mass-produced chaos drives to fuel the engines of all of Gun's tech, and they were even used to support the Biolizard. It's clear that chaos energy can be taken from the emeralds and replicated in pieces of technology, but what if this process happened naturally? Keep in mind that the emeralds weren't from Earth initially, just the Master Emerald. What if, when the ancients brought the emeralds to Earth, them being in an environment not native to them caused some sort of reaction, expelling their energy all across the Earth in the form of the rings? Since the rings are fueled by chaos energy, albeit a small amount, they're used as a currency. If the chaos drives are a car battery, the rings are more like AAAs. Either that, or perhaps the ancients themselves, out of fear of the end, attempted to create a sort of chaos drive of their own in order to fuel their machines to combat the end. This would make the rings a sort of prototype for the chaos drives. While my second theory not so much, the first explains why there's rings literally all over the planet. It's time for my new end of the episode little segment here. Well, I'll be taking one of your guys' comments and responding to them. I framed a few videos around this, but I like to make this a more consistent thing. So if you'd like, leave a comment down below. It might be featured in a future video. For now, we have the comment from Ball Fridge. This is in reply to my Explaining the Superforms video. Knuckles lived next to the Master Emerald. The reason he doesn't go super from the Chaos Emeralds might be because he already is. That's a really interesting concept to sort of suggest that a character can always be in their super form. I think Dragon Ball Z did this with Super Saiyan. I think in the Cell Saga, both Goku and Gohan stayed in their Super Saiyan state for, I think, like a prolonged period of time. I mean, this could explain why Knuckles' super form and hyper form look exactly the same. Perhaps his base form is a super form. With both his super form and hyper form being, I guess, a hyper form? I'm not sure how that would work. But the concept is really interesting, although I don't think that's what they're going for. But thanks for the comment, and I usually don't like asking this, but if you enjoyed the video, consider hitting the like button and subscribing. It helps me out a ton. Thank you guys so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.